Stop for a second. This is not motivation. This is a warning. The person you are right now is quietly destroying your future. And the worst part is, it feels normal. Every habit you repeat, every excuse you accept, every delay you justify is building a life you don't even want. You don't need another burst of energy. You don't need another video that makes you feel good for 5 minutes. You need to face something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. You need to destroy the version of yourself that is keeping you small, because the truth is simple and uncomfortable. You cannot build a powerful life on a weak identity. It doesn't work, it has never worked, and it will never work for you either. People try to add new habits without removing old ones. They try to grow while holding on to comfort. They try to become disciplined while protecting their distractions. That is why they stay stuck. That is why nothing changes. And that is why this video is different. This is not about adding more. This is about removing everything that is quietly ruining your progress. Because before you build a better life, you have to destroy the one you are living right now. There is a hidden pattern that most people never notice. Your brain is designed to protect your current identity, even if that identity is making you weak. That means every time you try to change, something inside you resists. It pushes you back to what feels familiar, not what is right, but what is familiar. This is why people quit after a few days. This is why discipline feels painful. This is why comfort feels so addictive. You are not fighting laziness. You are fighting your own identity. And unless you break that identity, nothing will ever truly change. This is not just opinion. Studies in psychology show that identity-based behavior is stronger than motivation. Motivation fades fast. Identity stays. If you see yourself as someone who procrastinates, you will always find a way to delay. If you see yourself as someone who lacks discipline, you will always fall back into old patterns. That is the real trap. Not your environment, not your situation, not even your past. It is the version of yourself you keep protecting. What makes this even more dangerous is how invisible it is. There is no loud warning, no clear signal. It happens quietly, day after day. You scroll instead of working. You delay instead of starting. You choose comfort instead of growth. And slowly, without realizing it, you build a life that feels heavy, frustrating, and stuck. Most people never break out of this cycle, not because they can't, but because they never understand what is actually holding them back. They keep trying the wrong approach. They look for shortcuts. They chase motivation. They wait for the perfect moment, and while they wait, time moves, opportunities disappear, and regret builds. This is one of the most overlooked truths. Success is not about doing more. It is about becoming someone different. Someone who no longer tolerates weakness. Someone who no longer negotiates with excuses. Someone who is willing to lose comfort to gain control. In this video, you are going to learn exactly how to break that cycle, not in a soft, easy way, but in a real way that actually works. You will understand why your current identity is keeping you stuck, even if you are trying to improve. You will see why change feels so difficult and why most people fail before they even start. You will learn the process of destroying the habits, patterns, and behaviors that are silently controlling your life. And more importantly, you will learn how to rebuild yourself from the ground up, alone, without depending on motivation, approval, or external support. There is a reason why the strongest people often go through periods of isolation. It is not by accident, it is by design. Because when you remove noise, you see clearly. When you stop chasing validation, you build real confidence. When you face yourself without distractions, you discover who you really are and who you need to become. There is also something most people will never tell you. Rebuilding yourself is not a comfortable process. It is not exciting every day. It is not always rewarding in the beginning. In fact, it often feels like you are losing more than you are gaining. You lose old habits. You lose certain people. You lose parts of your life that once felt normal. But what you gain is something far more powerful. Control, clarity, strength, the ability to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. That is what separates people who change their lives from those who stay stuck. Not talent, not luck, not intelligence, just the willingness to destroy what is no longer serving them. This video is going to challenge you in a way most content does not. It will not comfort you. It will not tell you that everything is fine. Because everything is not fine if you know you are capable of more and you are still holding yourself back. There is a gap between who you are and who you could become, and that gap is not closed by wishing, thinking, or waiting. It is closed by action. Hard, consistent, uncomfortable action. But before that action becomes effective, your mindset has to change. Your identity has to change. That is where the real transformation begins. So if you are tired of repeating the same patterns, if you are tired of starting and stopping, if you are tired of feeling like you are not living up to your potential, then stay with this video until the end. Because what you are about to hear can completely shift the way you see yourself and your life. Not in a temporary way, but in a way that forces real change. This is not for everyone. Most people will hear this and go back to their normal routine, but a small number of people will actually take it seriously. They will apply it, they will act on it, and those are the people who rebuild their lives from nothing. Welcome to the channel. If you are ready to stop living as your old self and start becoming the person you were meant to be, make sure you subscribe and stay with us, because this is where change begins. The real problem is not your effort. It is not your goals. It is not even your discipline. The real problem is that you are trying to grow while staying the same person. You wake up and tell yourself you will change. You say today will be different. You try to fix your habits. You try to improve your routine. But deep down, nothing really shifts. Because the person making those promises is still the same. The mindset is the same. The standards are the same. The reactions are the same, and that means the results will always be the same. You are trying to build a new life with an old identity, and that is why progress feels slow, frustrating, and temporary. People focus too much on what they do, but they ignore who they are, and who you are will always control what you do. If your identity is weak, your actions will collapse under pressure. If your identity avoids discomfort, your habits will disappear the moment things get hard. This is why so many people start strong and quit early. It is not a lack of information. It is a lack of identity shift. They are still the same person trying to act differently for a short time, and that never lasts. There is a pattern that keeps repeating. You get motivated, you plan your day, you promise yourself you will stay focused. Then something small happens. You feel tired, you get distracted, you delay one task, and suddenly everything starts falling apart. Not because you cannot do it, but because your identity pulls you back. It brings you back to what feels normal, and what feels normal is not growth, it is comfort. Comfort is the real trap. It does not look dangerous. It feels safe. It feels deserved. It feels like rest. But slowly it becomes a prison. You start choosing easy over necessary. You start avoiding what matters. You start protecting your current version instead of challenging it, and the more you protect it, the stronger it becomes. This is where most people lose without even realizing it. They are not stuck because of their situation. They are stuck because they are loyal. Loyal to habits that waste their time, loyal to thoughts that limit their potential, loyal to a version of themselves that no longer serves them. You are not stuck. You are loyal to a version of yourself that is comfortable but weak, familiar but limiting, safe but unfulfilling. That loyalty shows up in small ways. You keep checking your phone even when you know it is killing your focus. You keep delaying important work even when you know it matters. You keep choosing short-term comfort even when it leads to long-term regret. And each time you repeat these actions, you confirm your identity. You tell yourself this is who you are, and your brain listens. It builds patterns, it builds habits, it builds a system that keeps you exactly where you are. That is why trying harder is not enough. You can push yourself for a few days, you can force discipline for a short time, but if your identity does not change, you will always go back. Always. Because your actions follow your identity, not your intentions. And this is where everything shifts. The moment you understand that growth is not about adding more, but about becoming someone different, everything becomes clearer. You stop chasing motivation. You stop looking for perfect conditions. You stop waiting for the right time. you realize the real work is internal. It is not about what you do once, it is about who you become every day. And this leads to a harsh realization that most people avoid. Change requires loss. Real change is not comfortable, it is not easy, it is not something you can do while holding on to everything that feels safe. Growth is not about adding new habits on top of old ones. It is about removing what is holding you back. That means you will lose things. You will lose routines that once felt normal. You will lose ways of thinking that once felt true. You may even lose people who no longer align with the person you are becoming. And this is where many people stop, because they are not ready to pay the price. They want the result, but they do not want the sacrifice. They want the new life, but they refuse to let go of the old one, and that is why they stay the same. The new you has a price, and the price is your old life. Not part of it, not some of it, all of it. The habits that weaken you, the mindset that limits you, the comfort that keeps you stuck. It all has to go. This is the breaking phase. This is where everything starts to change, not by adding more, but by cutting away what no longer serves you. You begin to look at your life with honesty. You stop making excuses. You stop pretending everything is fine. You start seeing patterns. You notice how you spend your time. You notice where your energy goes. You notice the moments where you choose comfort over growth. And once you see it clearly, you cannot ignore it anymore. This is where discipline begins. Discipline starts where excuses end. The moment you stop justifying your behavior and start taking responsibility, everything shifts. You realize that if something weakens you, it has to go. No negotiation, no delay, no second chances. Whether it is a habit, a distraction, or a mindset, if it pulls you away from who you want to become, it does not belong in your life. This phase is not easy. It feels uncomfortable. It feels intense, because you are not just changing your actions, you are breaking your identity. You are stepping away from what feels normal, and your mind will resist. It will try to pull you back. It will give you reasons to stop. It will tell you to rest, to delay, to go back to what is easy. But this is where the real work happens. This is where you decide if you are serious or not. Because every time you resist that pull, you become stronger. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you take control. Every time you cut something that weakens you, you create space for something better. This is not about perfection. It is about awareness. It is about seeing clearly and acting accordingly. And the more aware you become, the less power your old patterns have over you. After this phase comes something even more difficult: isolation. This is where most people fail, not because they cannot handle the work, but because they cannot handle being alone. When you start removing distractions, when you stop seeking constant stimulation, when you step away from validation, you are left with yourself. And for many people that is uncomfortable, because they are not used to it. They are used to noise. They are used to constant input. They are used to external approval. But growth does not happen in noise. It happens in silence. Silence builds clarity. It allows you to think. It allows you to reflect. It allows you to understand yourself without influence. And that is powerful. But it is also difficult, because there is no escape, no distraction, no one to impress, just you and your thoughts. This is where you start to see the truth. You see your strengths. You see your weaknesses. You see your patterns more clearly than ever before. And this is where real change begins, because now you are not reacting. You are observing. You are not following habits blindly. You are choosing your actions consciously, and this is what most people never reach. They stay distracted, they stay busy, they stay surrounded by noise, and they never truly understand themselves. But when you step into isolation, everything becomes clear. It is not loneliness, it is training. It is the process of building mental strength. It is the process of becoming independent. Because when you stop relying on others for validation, you start building real confidence. When you stop looking for approval, you start trusting yourself. And when you are alone, you meet the real version of yourself, not the version shaped by others, not the version that performs, the real one. And from that point, you begin to build again, not the old version, not a slightly improved version, a completely new identity. This is where everything changes, because now you are not focused on habits first. You are focused on who you are becoming. You decide what kind of person you want to be. Clear, specific, strong. And then you start acting like that person every single day. Not when you feel like it, not when it is easy, every day. Because identity is not built by thinking, it is built by action. Small actions repeated consistently. That is what creates change. That is what builds belief. Every time you act in alignment with your new identity, you prove it to yourself. You show your brain that this is who you are now. And slowly it becomes natural. It becomes automatic. It becomes real. A focused person does not wait for the perfect moment. They protect their time. They remove distractions. They do what matters even when it is hard. A disciplined person does not depend on motivation. They show up daily. They follow through. They finish what they start. And when you start acting like this, even in small ways, your identity begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who struggles. You start seeing yourself as someone who takes control, and that changes everything. Because once your identity changes, your actions follow naturally. You do not have to force discipline. It becomes part of who you are. You do not have to fight distractions constantly. You remove them without hesitation. You do not wait to become that person. You act like them until you are. To make this real, you need structure. You need a system. Because without structure, everything becomes random. And random actions lead to random results. Your life changes when your days change, and your days change when you take control of them. It starts with your morning. How you begin your day sets the tone for everything that follows. If you start with distraction, your focus is already broken. If you start with intention, you build momentum. You do not need a complicated routine. You need a consistent one, something simple that you can repeat every day. You limit distractions. You remove what wastes your time. You do the hard things first, because that is when your energy is highest. That is when your focus is strongest. And when you finish difficult tasks early, everything else feels easier. Tracking your actions is also important. Not in a complicated way, just enough to stay aware. Because what gets measured gets improved. When you see your progress, you stay motivated. When you see your patterns, you stay in control. And over time, these small systems create big changes. Not instantly, not overnight, but consistently. And that is what matters. Because real change is not fast. It is steady. It is built day by day, action by action, decision by decision. And the more you repeat these patterns, the stronger your identity becomes, the more natural discipline feels, the more control you gain over your life. And slowly, without even realizing it, you become someone different, someone who no longer accepts weakness, someone who no longer runs from discomfort, someone who has rebuilt themselves from the ground up. Right now, at this exact moment, there are two types of people watching this. One will feel this, understand it for a few minutes, and then go back to the same routine, the same habits, the same excuses, the same life. Days will pass, weeks will pass, and nothing will really change. Not because they can't change, but because they choose not to. They choose comfort again. They choose delay again. They choose the familiar version of themselves again, and slowly that choice becomes their future. This is how most people live, not by making big mistakes, but by repeating small ones every single day until their life reflects it. And then there is the other type, the smaller group, the rare ones who take this seriously, the ones who don't just listen, but act, the ones who understand that change is not coming to save them. They have to create it. These are the people who make a decision and stick to it even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels lonely. Even when no one is watching. They stop negotiating with their old self. They stop making excuses. They stop waiting. And because of that, everything starts to shift. Slowly at first, then completely. This is the difference. Not talent, not luck, just a decision backed by action. Right now, you are choosing who you become. Not tomorrow, not next week. Right now, in this moment, in this decision, in what you do after this video ends. Because information means nothing without action. Understanding means nothing without change. You already know what is holding you back. You already know what needs to go. The only question is, will you actually do it, or will you keep carrying it with you? Destroy what's holding you back. Not later, not when it feels easy. Now, cut the habits that weaken you. Walk away from what distracts you. Let go of the version of yourself that is comfortable but limiting, and then rebuild what actually matters. Build discipline. Build focus. Build a mindset that does not break under pressure. Do it step by step. Do it daily. Do it with intention. And most importantly, do it alone when necessary, because that is where real strength is built. Not in noise, not in attention, but in silence, in effort, in consistency that no one sees. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need another chance. You already have everything you need to begin. The only thing left is your decision. So make it count. Start today, not tomorrow. If this message hit you, if you felt something shift inside you, then don't let it fade. Take action and stay connected to this mindset. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next. Like this video so it reaches more people who need to hear this. And share it with someone who is still stuck, someone who needs that push. Because change spreads when people decide to act, and this might be the moment that changes everything for you.